The Maple Leafs get their first win of the year as the Buds down the Devils 4-2 to wreck the home opener of Sheldon Keefe. Let's break down the win and get you set for Leafs and Penguins in Toronto's home opener on Saturday. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morasutti. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. What's going on, Dave? How we feeling? It's a little Victory Friday.
Yeah, Victory Friday, and I guess we can cool the panic alarms on the Leafs not being able to score.
You were worried, were you? You're concerned that this team is going to go 0-82 with 0 goals.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were never going to score ever again.
Well, they didn't wait too long against the Devils to start filling the net. It was three goals, three quick strikes, and you felt pretty good about things. It was like, okay, this is what we've been waiting for. It wasn't the cast of characters I think we expected to score the first few goals, but goals nonetheless. The Maple Leafs with a 4-2 win over the New Jersey Devils. The Toronto Maple Leafs now 1-1 on the season. Craig Berube gets his first win as the head coach of the Maple Leafs. What to you do you think is the bigger story, I guess, coming out of we'll call it the first 2 games, but coming out of last night? Is it how great the fourth line has been and the depth? Or is it the fact that, the top 3 guys, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, have been held off the score sheet through 2 games?
I mean, we like to be positive, but that's not how things roll here. I think first 2 games, you get a win. You kind of look past that. But as things go along, if this continues to kind of be the trend, which obviously we're not expecting that, but
yeah,
if it has been something that's been talked about, right? Like it'd be one thing though if they've been silent. I don't think they've been quiet. It's just we've come to expect more, let's just say.
Yeah, like I wouldn't say there's no, like, we're talking a panic concernometer, like it's inexistent. Like, I'm not worried about those 3 and their inabilities to find offense. Like, it's gonna come. It is gonna come. I mean, they had plenty of opportunities throughout the first couple of games. It's gonna come. But it's nice to see that the depth is coming through, and that was something that we wanted and hoped to see this year, right? Was that little bit of secondary scoring, a full season of Bobby McMahon, Max Pacioretty. What can he add as a former 30-plus goal scorer year in, year out? Can he get a little bit of secondary scoring? Scored the first goal of the Maple Leaf season, right? Got things going right away. And Bobby McMahon scored. Steven Lorentz got a goal. And then the former captain, John Tavares, with a nice little move to score the 4th goal. But overall, yes, I think we want to see the big boys score. It is, nice to see that they're at least driving play for the most part. And it's going to come. So I'm not worried about it. I think it's great that you're getting, you're able to get a victory without having any of those guys, hit the score sheet. That doesn't happen too often, where the Leafs score 4 goals and not one of those 3 guys end up with a single point.
Well, how many times? I mean, you just look back at the past few years, like when one of Matthews or Marner score, like what the Leafs record is like.
Yeah.
Which, like, great. It just shows how important they are to the team, but it also shows too much of our lines always on 2-3 guys to always carry the workload, right? And so, yeah, you expect them to be good, but they shouldn't be the ones expected to do everything, right? If a team's going to clamp down on your top stars, okay, you got to find other guys to beat them. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference this year. They have guys that are going to be capable of doing that, and capable of doing it in the ways I think is more sustainable, right? It's not going to be streaky scoring. It's not guys who are, cherry picking. It's guys that are going to do the work, go in the right positions to score, and throw pucks on the net and hope good things happen, like Bobby McMahon did, right? Like,
dude, I think like, did you watch Ted Lasso by
of
chance?
course.
Great show. So you know how, above the office it has believe, and it's just like written down on a thing, and they kind of touch it before they walk out. I feel like the mantra and the sign that maybe Craig Berube has placed outside the dressing room right before you go out, and everyone gives a little tap, says something to the effect of, "Don't be cute, just shoot." Because that seems to be what the Maple Leafs are doing. Don't be cute, just shoot. And they're shooting everything from every angle. And look, good things have happened, right? Put the puck on net, good things will happen. Go to the net, good things will happen. And early on, the Leafs were rewarded against the New Jersey Devils. None of those first period goals out of the depth players were sexy by any stretch of the imagination.
Nope.
I'm sure those are ones that Sheldon Keefe just absolutely eye rolling, just can't believe that's his luck, his home opener against his former team, and these are the goals that are going in with his all-star level goaltender. It's just like, gosh, well, it's just terrible luck for the guy. But speaking of goalies, I mean, we're 5 minutes into this thing. We haven't mentioned the Hildebeest, who came up big. His first start, his first win. I thought he looked pretty solid, Dave. What'd you make of Hildeby?
It was the exact reason why I said there should be no concern about him playing in a game, right? Like, I understand that the AHL is different than the NHL. I understand that preseason is different than the regular season, but the way, like, this is a goalie who's played pro hockey before. This is not a guy who's come from juniors, right, and is playing pro hockey. He played pro hockey in Sweden, was pretty good. Came to the AHL, he was pretty good. Yeah, did he kind of lose momentum near the end? Of course, but everything was telling me like he would be able to handle at least spot duty, right? And I think it also just galvanized the team a little bit to play, to give him a little bit of security. You get spotted 3 goals, right? A 3-1 lead after the first period. I think many goalies would be happy with that, right? To know that your offense is going to be able to, provide you a little bit of, security in case, maybe you let in a bad goal or something like that, right? Like, unfortunately for Anthony Stolarz, he didn't get that in his first game. No. They tried, it just didn't happen. But like, yeah, I thought, you saw a goalie who showed his flexibility, his athleticism, the size again. Like, the way that just the trend of goalies, right, are going like bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Like the days of, like, Tim Thomas being in the net, right? Like those guys, Jonas Enroth, remember being like a small goalie. Like that's
Saros he's a small goalie, but they're few. And
he's one of the few that's like he's like now like the rare case of like a smaller goalie.
Yeah, the exception to the rule. It's like normally you've got to be 6'3" or above to be a goalie in the National Hockey League. And the Leafs got a couple biggies. Like, I think even like Joseph Wall's like 6'3". Like he's not short, but compared to 6'6" Anthony Stolarz and 6'7" Dennis Hildeby, he does kind of look a little small. But it makes sense, right? Like when you go down to your butterfly, if you're that big and you're that long, you're still taking up a lot of the net. You're completely taking away the bottom of the net, and you're taking out most of the top of the net. You got to force guys to shoot high. And if you're 3 inches higher than every other goaltender, take up an extra 3 inches of the net. It's just, simple mathematics and science. Just makes sense. But yeah, that's definitely one of the strengths that Dennis Hildeby has, is the gifted body type that he has. But the athleticism, you talked about it, like that's something too that's going to allow him to be, what I think is going to be like a quality goaltender. I don't know if he's going to turn into a star or a stud, but he showed that he could play, and I think that's big, especially now that we don't really know exactly what's up with Woll. How long's the injury? How bad is it? Is it going to pop up again? We just have so many question marks. And prior to last night's game, it was, well, we think Hildeby could do it, but we weren't sure. Now okay, he's played in an NHL game. He looked pretty good. If we have to go back to him again, there shouldn't really be any nervousness from the coaching staff and the group in front of him, which I thought played well too. I think that's something too. Like Hildeby wasn't really under siege a whole lot in that game. I thought defensively the Maple Leafs were pretty darn solid. I think you only had 20 23 shots on net last night. What did he make? Yeah, 23 saves. 23 shots against, 21 saves.
Yeah.
So it wasn't overly busy.
No, and that's, I think that's why when you get a blue line like this, right? Adding a lot of people telling like how much better they like this blue line with Tanev, with OEL, even like the Benoit Timmins pairing. I know Timmins is taking a lot of penalties, but big bodies, guys that are they're making it tough. It's not easy, right? They're not giving up things very easily in the defensive zone, like we've seen in the past. And yes, it's an older blue line, but hey, they're getting the job done right now. We'll see how it goes as the year goes along, right? But I do think that's also a big factor is we make life easier on the goalie as much as you can. Having that blue line, I'm sure Craig Berube, and I'm sure I'm sure that even Brad Treliving is enjoying like seeing what he kind of has been looking for, right, the last few years, adding size and length to that blue line.
Did you also hear Sheldon Keefe pregame saying, admitting, I liked what they did with the blue line, the additions that they made. I bet you he's thinking, why couldn't you have done that while I was there? I would have loved to have a Chris Tanev and an Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Would have been fantastic. But you stuck me with an Edmondson and a Labushkin instead. Not quite the same. But,
no, not at all.
No, but they'll be fine. That the Devils team's still a quality squad, but it's nice for the Leafs to get a win. It did look like the Devils were, a little slow at the gate. And I think that we kind of talked about it. Maybe they would be coming back from, could they be jet lagged coming back from Prague? Typically, it takes teams a couple of weeks to fully get their legs back underneath them after that long travel and the time zone difference. So maybe that was a factor early on last night, which allowed Toronto to kind of jump a little bit early. All right, we'll take a break. Let's come back. Let's get to our 3 stars of the game, and then we turn the page and we get right back to previewing hockey. Game 3 coming quick. That's 3 games in 4 nights. Keefe, adios. Hello, Dubas, coming to Toronto for the Leafs home opener on Saturday. So we'll tee that game up for you in a little bit. We got the 3 stars coming up on the other side. I'm Mike DiStefano with Dave Morasutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed, because Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree. Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your job more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. So that is Indeed.com/lockedon right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morasutti with you as we are each and every weekday. Apologies for the late pod. We had a long day and we had to push the recording back a couple of times, and it took us a bit, but we got it out to you guys. We're able to break down what happened on Friday. That's partly my bad, so I do take on the brunt of that, but I do apologize. But hey, we got it out there, right? We're dependable.
Hey, you guys got extra time. Friday, what are you doing on a Friday night? Well, this will be out Friday night. And what are you doing on a Saturday morning? You're preparing yourself for the home opener.
Exactly. And we'll tee that up in just a minute. But let's put a bow on last night's game first as we go through the 3 stars. The first time in the regular season that we've been able to get to the 3 stars, as we do after each and every win. We'll start up at the tippy top. Who do you, and I'm curious to hear what your answer is on this one, because I think there's a couple of correct options. Who to you was the number one star for the Maple Leafs last night?
I got to go with the hometown boy, someone that's loved every minute of being a Leaf right now, joining the team this offseason. That is one, Steven Lorentz.
Yeah, what are we going with?
We're going with Lorentz.
So you tried to correct me.
It was in the Toronto Star. They asked him what he prefers. He was saying Lawrence, but apparently somebody overruled him on that, and it's actually Lorentz.
Okay, so we're going with Steven Lorentz. Good. Grand. Continue with the analysis.
I mean, look, he's done everything that you want a guy on a PTO, right? The work has not stopped. He is doing things on both ends of the ice. You ask why the fourth line looks so good right now. They haven't really had a guy like Lorentz that's dependable at both ends of the ice. Yeah, they've got guys like Noah Gregor, who is like speedy and, pretty half decent on the forecheck, but it's those little details I think that he is doing that I had been missed in past years, right?
Yeah.
So, and look, am I expecting him to score every day? No, but what I'm expecting is that he is going to provide you with offense when called upon.
I don't know if that's what I would, if that's what his calling card's going to be, but it'll be a nice bonus if he could provide some offense, I suppose. But his calling card is just how his work ethic, like how hard he works and how difficult he is to play against on both ends of the ice. I think you saw that, like, he's a guy who's out there. He accredited a couple blocked shots. He had a takeaway, a couple hits, scored a goal, obviously, had an apple. Like, he was all over the place when you look at the score sheet, which makes sense because what my eyeballs were telling me through the first couple of games, like Steven Lorentz might have been the most noticeable Maple Leaf on the ice through these first two games. So, whether or not that's a good thing that your fourth liner is the one who's, stuck out the most to you, you can look at that positively or negatively. But we got to give him credit, right? When credit's due, he's been great. He's been far better than advertised. I don't get it. Like if Steven Lorentz was this good of a player, like why is this guy chilling on a PTO all the way through August and into September? Like there's tons of teams who should have wanted a guy like this. And he did say that there were other teams, but
yeah,
he is far. It's only 2 games, so let's not get crazy. But if this is what he's going to be, he has far surpassed the $800,000 contract that he's been given.
No, exactly. I think, partly if you have an opportunity to go to Toronto, and for him, he really wanted that opportunity to go play for the team that he grew up cheering for. Plays a little bit factor. He just, he was just part of a Stanley Cup winning team. It's also like surprising, he didn't play a lot in Florida last year. I think part of that was injury related. It wasn't just because, they're also a deep team, so that also plays a factor. But yeah, I think there's a reason why when we were the first few days, you're hearing how much they like Lorentz, and it never became a point of I don't know if this guy's going to make the team. It was almost like we were talking about him as if he was a part of the team, like a first week into his PTO, which you don't really hear that often. A lot of guys that were on PTOs this past training camp, a lot of them aren't on the team that they were on that they tried out for.
Yeah, it did feel though, like to your point, like a weekend, it was like, yeah, Lorentz and Pacioretty, like they don't have contracts, they're on PTOs, but like they're gonna make the team. Like it was a foregone conclusion, and they were just waiting till the end to see how much cap they could afford to give them, like how much money they could give those guys is basically, I think, what it came down to. And look, Lorentz has been great. He was fantastic last night again. He was my first star also, by the way. My second star, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to give it to, I want to give it to 6 guys, 6 different guys.
What are we doing here? 6 different guys.
The blue line as a whole, Dave, deserves our respect. I think who played poorly in the blue line last night?
I don't think anyone did, really.
Oh, I thought they were great. Like they were quiet, not much happened. They didn't allow a flurry, and anytime they killed play. I mean, I'll give the special shout out, I guess, to like Morgan Riley and Chris Tanev. Like that pairing is working out exactly how we had all hoped it would, right? Like Chris Tanev has been a rock star. He's such a calming presence back there. The way that he can just kill plays behind the net, great stick. He blocks shots. He's got an elite first pass, and like just the way that he can transition the puck up ice with it allows them to get out of danger so quickly. Like that, and quickly is a good word to use, especially against a talented team like the New Jersey Devils, who've got some spunk, and you give them an extra half second to apply pressure, right? A guy like Timothy Liljegren in the past has bungled the puck, given the puck away, and that puck was usually in the back of the net 5 or 6 seconds later. Now Chris Tanev, man, calm, cool, collected, sends the puck up. He knows what to do, and they defended their asses off. I think they both, as a pairing, they both led the Leafs in expected goals percentage last night. So, and that's with, primarily getting a lot of the defensive zone starts. Like they're going up against some of the tougher matchups on the New Jersey Devils, and, still being able to shut them down and, get the puck up the ice and allow, the offensive players to get into it. So I really like what I've seen from Riley Tanev. I thought they were fantastic last night. I think they're just going to continue to find chemistry and grow. I was having this conversation last night. I was with a buddy and we were chatting. I said, I can't wait for when Riley, like where something clicks, where he really realizes what it's like to have a Tanev as a partner, with like the ability for Tanev single-handedly to like move the puck. Like Riley's always been the puck mover of his pair, right? So he's had to always kind of be there and be a safety blanket. And what now with Tanev, the way that he can shoot the puck or pass the puck and be that outlet, Riley could jump up into the rush. And that's when he's most dangerous, jumping up into the rush, being that extra attacker, get those odd man rushes. And Tanev is a partner that allows for that stuff to happen. So I can't wait for when, those two really start to click and Riley takes advantage of that. And I think that he could be in for a decently big year. That's what I've come to realize over the last couple of games here. But yeah, I thought the blue line as a whole was solid, but I guess I'll give the second star to the pair of Riley Tanev. I'll settle it. I'll go for 2, not 6. I'll give it to 2 guys. The pair of Riley and Tanev.
That's nice. I'm glad senses prevail a little bit here. Otherwise, like, I'm gonna give it to all the forwards next time.
Oh, come on now. Come on.
Don't want to get crazy here. My second star was Dennis Hildeby. Make your first NHL start. Not an easy team to go up against. And yeah, I think it's a solid performance for him, right? In your NHL debut, you could tell, maybe a little nervous. Probably be nervous too if I was making my first NHL start, right? But I felt like
it was Markstrom on the other side, right?
A Swedish, countryman.
Somebody certainly, I would imagine, looked up to growing up, like for sure. I'm sure he had the jitters. He was my third star. So I didn't. The one thing that precluded him from getting the second star for me, I bet you know what it was.
I'm gonna say it.
Why?
I'll let you say it.
I never like when goalies allow a goal in the final minute.
Mike literally texts me as the period was ending. I don't like that late goal being given up.
Oh, I don't. Like it can be a momentum shifter. Like that could have been a turning point in the game, right? Like you're controlling things. You're up 4-1. That'd be a much sexier stat to roll into the third period with, 4-1, clamp down, let's go home. 4-2, you just gave up a goal. You give them a little bit of Energizer Bunny, a little shot of that. They go into the locker room and they're like, all right, boys, we just got one. We'll have to go out, get another one. And like they're feeling good about themselves. They just got a big shot of dopamine 5 seconds before the ending buzzer. Whereas the Maple Leafs, it's like, crap, we just gave up a back-breaking goal at the end of the period. Now, it didn't come back to bite them in the ass, which is great. They still won the game. They're able to clamp down defensively and get it done. But that's the only thing where I was like, and that dropped them to third star for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I think more, and I said to you, like the more important thing is you can give up that late goal. You sure as heck better not give up an early goal to get them, give them life pretty much, right?
Yeah.
I think like giving up that goal gives them a little bit of like, oh, we're still in this thing. But if you give up that goal early enough, they're gonna be like, no, we're right in it, right? So yeah, it's not ideal, but I think that's something for sure was talked about in the dressing room in between periods.
Well, I quickly just want to see what the expected goals were for the Devils there in the third period. They didn't get a lot of chances. It didn't feel like at all. Expected goals, 0.12 expected goals in the third period. So the Leafs doing a really good job. They won 68% of the minutes in that third period at 5-on-5, I guess, is the caveat there. So good on the Maple Leafs, good on Toronto. Able to kind of get it down there. And they got the win. And that's all that matters. Got the victory, 2 points in the bag. And we move on to Pittsburgh. Coming home for the home opener. Kyle Dubas coming in. Michael Bunting coming in. Sidney Crosby, obviously, coming to town. So let's regroup. We'll come back and we'll break down Leafs Penguins on the other side. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morasutti. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And you can do that right now. Place your first bet. Leafs money line on the Penguins. I like it. I love it. Let's get the dub on home ice at Scotiabank Arena. It's your first $5 bet. You'll get 200 bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose. And you can do that with FanDuel.com. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morasutti with you here. 2 games in the books, 80 more to go, and game number 3 of the year goes down tomorrow night with Sidney Crosby and the Penguins coming into town. First Keefe, now Dubas. It's been quite the trio of games, I guess, to start. It's the big rivalry with the Habs. Then you go to Sheldon Keefe's home opener against the Devils at the Prudential Center. Now you come home and you welcome in Kyle Dubas back to town, along with Michael Bunting and Sidney Crosby and Geno Malkin, who has absolutely torched the Maple Leafs throughout his career, and Erik Karlsson, who hopefully Austin Matthews strips a puck on and scores his 4th of the game. It's happened before. Who says it can't happen again? Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? You're picking up what I'm putting down, Dave. What are you expecting in this one, buddy?
Well, if you watch the first game the Penguins played this year, you'd expect the Leafs to just run them over.
Yeah,
because they got torched by New York 6-0.
Awful.
They did rebound to win against Detroit 6-3 on the following day, but that's also Detroit. They're not that great of a team, but I think maybe a little bit of an in between there. Like they're a team that's trying to see if they can make a run for the playoffs, but probably should not have been a team that's trying to make a run for the playoffs. Still guys that can, as you said, still guys that can burn you, right? You got Crosby, you got Malkin, you still have Karlsson, Letang, you still got those guys that can be a little pain in the rear to go up against, especially on a Saturday night. Like those are the guys that come up big in those moments, right? So but like again, I think this Leafs team has done very well against Pittsburgh in Toronto, especially. You might recall I think the last time they played Pittsburgh in Toronto, they were very shorthanded. Max Domi played first line center with Marner. Like they had I think it was like the London line almost in that game.
Yeah. Actually, I do recall that.
They absolutely just crushed Pittsburgh in that game. So again, we'll say that can't happen again, right? And if especially
7-0, they beat Pittsburgh.
If it's Tristan Jarry in that too, I really like the Leafs' chances in this game.
Yeah,
because Jarry is very no bueno.
Yeah, not a good goalie. Not a good goalie.
Yeah. No. So I wonder though, and I got a question for you going into this game. Same exact lineup as last time, or does Bobby McMahon come out for Ryan Reeves? What do you do here?
Same lineup. Yeah. Like you roll with it. I think you roll with the forward group. I I would hope that they've been happy enough with the blue line that they don't feel the need to get Liljegren into this game. But like, I don't know, do they want to, filter guys in and out? Like possibly Timmins comes out for, but I don't know. Like Timmins has played decent too. Like he's even been killing penalties for this team, which I did not expect to see, to be quite honest with you. And I don't really trust Timmins or Liljegren on the penalty kill anymore. So I don't know if you'd want to make that change. I really don't. I'm not too sure. So I would keep with the same lineup. Why not? Let her rip. See what happens. They played well and you won in New Jersey. Why not keep it rolling?
Yeah, and I've really liked. I've always been a Bobby McMahon fan. I thought him coming in was the right call. Like I thought it was almost like expected to happen.
He's and like let's be honest. And I'm not here to be the Ryan Reeves hater all the time, but like as good as they played in night one, granted, like Ryan Reeves was not a liability, in game one. I liked the look of that fourth line even better when Bobby McMahon was out there last. They scored twice. Like that's a good fourth line, a pretty solid fourth line. Like you got a guy who can chip in a little bit offensively, who's got big body and McMahon. You've got Lorentz, who's relentless on a puck, an absolute hound, who apparently can chip in offensively from time to time. I don't expect for that to happen too often. I'm kind of being facetious with that one, but he's extremely reliable and dependable defensively. And Camp has been pretty solid so far too in that regard. So I've liked what I've seen from that fourth line. And I do think that McMahon gives them a little bit more of just like another layer to him, because then it adds a tad bit of an offensive punch that Reeves just can't give them. And this is not a big, rough and tumble Pittsburgh Penguins team. So it's not like you need Reeves out there to be patrolling or policing anything. So, I mean, it's a Kyle Dubas built team. That tells you all you need to know. So I think you rolled the same 18 skaters, and you go back to Stolars, obviously. I think Stolars will get the start at home. Outside of that, I think you roll it back.
Yeah, I don't see a reason to really change much. Again, unless and they have such a break between this game and the next game. No, maybe
one game in the next week. Like they play this, and they play once on Wednesday, and they don't play again until Saturday. It's like 3 games in 4 nights to start the season. And then the following week, they have 1 game. Like, who's making the schedule here? Jeez.
It's unbelievable.
And then the back half of October is littered with games. They have 11 games in the month of October this year. I think. With you didn't start the year until the 10th, 9th, 10th. 9th and 10th.
Yeah.
You have a week off in between games. I mean, there's a lot of hockey being played in a short span.
Yeah, so those guys that are sitting right now waiting to get in, you might get a chance or two.
They'll get in. And that could be too why they got 2 blue liners up there, right? Like why Phil Myers is up. Dude, you think Phil Myers may get the nod over a guy like Liljegren?
Like just I said Craig Berube has a type right now. It ain't Timmy.
No, it's not. Like I think he would trust Myers more in that role that Timmins is playing, right? Third pair, right? Third pair, a little bit of PK. You can just be physical and hard to play against in front of the net. Big body, lanky, long, right?
And
checks
cheaper.
more of the boxes. Yeah, and he's cheaper, much cheaper. Although we heard that report that they're looking to trade Liljegren. All right, they're looking to find a taker for him. Maybe this is a game where you can possibly showcase him. Like it's not a very talented, deep roster, so it could be a showcase game for Lily. I guess I never thought about that angle, but maybe that's an opportunity to get him in. It's also, you're on home ice for the first time, so you got last change, so you won't get caught with Liljegren on the ice if you don't want him to be. So maybe Lily does get in, but strictly for not because he deserves it or because Timmins needs a breather or anything, strictly because it's an easier game, easier matchups, and it might be a decent chance to showcase him.
Yeah, this isn't he hasn't played, like Liljegren didn't play well in preseason, didn't play well in training. Like it wouldn't be on merit. I know a lot of people are fans of his. I've wanted to see him succeed. But at the same time, if guys are playing better than him and are making far less than him, sorry, man. Like, it's the way it goes.
I've got one question for you when it comes to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Okay, just to prove how I don't want to use the word crap, but like how untalented might not be the right word, but the lack of depth on this team. Don't look it up. Don't look it up. Do you know who the wingers are with Sidney Crosby right now?
Well, Rust is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not. I mean, I'm going to assume Bunting is one of them.
Okay.
I know in preseason, Beauvillier was playing with him. He's still playing with Beauvillier?
He is playing with Drew O'Connor and Anthony Beauvillier. That is their top line. Crosby, O'Connor, Beauvillier. And then I think it's Gino with Bunting and Ricard Raquel as the second line.
Look, I understand Sidney Crosby can make very ordinary and less ordinary players look really good, but come on.
Give him something. It's like you went from Gensel to Beauvillier?
Dude, you got a Rucker McGroarty on this roster. Playing with Rucker McGroarty, at least McGroarty's got, there's potential there.
Some jam there. Potential. Yeah, I don't hate that actually. Possibly put him up with Sid the kid, who's now Sid the adult. Take him under his wing.
Did you see that commercial?
I did. That was actually I actually did like that commercial by the NHL. I did like it. Kids these days. Pretty good commercial there.
Sid the kid in his 20th year.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Are we talking about a different commercial?
No. I just remember. No. When you talk about Sid the kid, I'm just like, we're still calling him Sid the kid after all this
20
time.
years. Yeah.
20 years.
And he's older than us, Dave, by like half a decade, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
More. He's born what, 87?
Born in 87, yeah.
Yeah, so he's 7 years older. He's gonna be 37 years old.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. Good for him, man. He's still playing at an elite level. I mean, the team stinks, but he's still playing at a good level.
Oh yeah.
I always do find it fun though. Like when Crosby rolls around, a chance to watch Crosby, just for a full night is always a treat. It really is. So if anyone's going down there, going down to the game, enjoy it. Take it in. He's not going to be playing at this level and playing in the league for much longer. So if you're going down there, enjoy it, man. Sidney Crosby, one of the greatest to ever do it. And don't think he's going to come away with a win. I'll say that. Not sure he's going to come away with a win. That said,
won't make it easy anyways.
I'm just saying, this will be the test. This will be a test, right? Playing down to their opponents. This is a test. Let's not play down. The Leafs are a much better team than this Pittsburgh Penguins squad. Far better in every aspect. Prove it, right? Take the game by the nuts and go, please. Austin Matthews, take over the game. That I'll say this, and this is the last thing. We'll end the podcast. As much as I think Matthews has not played bad, he hasn't taken control yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to see him take control at some point here. Because you're the captain, and that's what you should have done that on the first night. But I don't even think he registered a shot on goal last night, which is not common, obviously, for Austin. This guy's usually putting up 4 or 5 shots a night. So I need him to definitely take the game and assert his dominance, assert himself as one of the top players in the league and prove it, and do it against a guy like Sidney Crosby. Those are the games you got to get up for, and I think that he should be able to do it. Like that should be a matchup line. Like if I'm, Matthews, I'm like, put me against Sid. I want to go up against Sid. I want to do it. I'd love it. As the captain, I would love for him to do that. So we'll see. Should be a good game, though. Should be fun. Prediction: Matthews first of the year. I'll put that one down.
I'll go like 5-2 Leafs.
3-1 Leafs.
Okay.
3-1 Leafs. That's what I think. 3-1 1 Maple Leafs. That's my prediction. All right, that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morasutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on, we can do Monday's show, Thanksgiving.
We might be able to get one in Sunday night, maybe.
I think we could squeeze in a Monday show. I think for the people, a little Thanksgiving, what are we thankful for type of episode for the people on Monday. So we'll come back with a festive Thanksgiving show on Monday to recap the game against the Penguins. But until then, enjoy your Thanksgiving weekends to everybody. Enjoy your turkey, and go Leafs go. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.